nothing. Leeds draw. That's why I've been waiting back. And here I am eating those words. Because not only the Arsenal, have a 5-star performance, they also did it whilst welcoming their own. One of their own, talking about Eberechi, it couldn't have been a better script. And I have to honestly say this. Look, for all the alignments that people have said, for all the loud mouths that have been Arsenal fans, I genuinely would like to see Arsenal lift something this year, because the history of that club is really fantastic. And for about two to three decades, they were probably one of the most shining lights in English football. Talking about in the early 80s, not in the 90s. Liverpool were just winding down. 70s, 80s were for the Liverpool fans. Man United took over the Premier League, 90s and up to 2000s. Now it's Manchester City. And we don't know what's going to happen. But I think Arsenal really deserve right now, based off deserve to pick up maybe the Champions League. I would pick, if I was an Arsenal fan, I would pick the Champions League over the Premier League right now. But I know the Arsenal fans want all the titles. But calm down, bros. The woman won't born. Not be the first one they go, no. Y'all wait. You also wait. Now, speaking of waiting and what to do whilst waiting, our final conversation is about the sanitation in Rivers State. Now, some of you have been to Lagos, and people talk about, how the sanitation levels there have improved. I was in Lagos last year, and I don't think the improvement was that great, if I'm honest. In fact, as of last year when I visited Lagos, I'd probably even pick Port Harcourt over Lagos, right? Yeah, some parts of Lagos are really nice and clean, others not so much. Abuja is kind of like much better than Port Harcourt, but I hear that Abuja is beginning to wear, the dirty armbands these days, right? Uyo still remains the yardstick for Uyo and Jos still keep the yardstick. Yeah, okay, all right, cool. But here we are. If you follow the news, and let me just quickly read it out for you. This was in our news, I think it was yesterday. Okay. The reintroduction of monthly sanitation. That's where we are right now. Now, for a very long time, I think maybe 5 or 6 years, I don't think we've had any sanitation exercise here. Now, back in those days, the sanitation exercise used to be the first or last Saturday of the month. Those of you who were in Port Harcourt those days, I think on that Chibike Amici was also in force. On those days, till about 10 or 11 o'clock, nobody will be out. You're meant to be cleaning your immediate environment. In fact, the people who were out back then would be essential service workers. That would be obviously media, power, police, and medical officers. So doctors, obviously nurses, returning from their shifts had to be, be able to move around. But if you don't have a car back then, but you couldn't move because no taxi would be on the road for you. That's the honest truth. But one of the criticisms about that sanitation order was the fact that at some point most people would just sit down in their house and look at it. Saturday mo we rest more no come out, just sit down at home. And then others also argue that in other climes they didn't have a particular day for sanitation. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the sanitation day, the one day allocated to having a cleanup, is bad. No, that's not what I'm saying. But they argue that where sanitation was prioritized and systems were continuously fine-tuned, there wasn't a need for a particular day to hold a sanitation for everybody. Basically, you are asking that economic activities be put on hold for 3 to 5 hours. And then the argument still is, with those 3 to 5 hours, because most people wake up around 6 or 7 o'clock, on a Saturday morning, give or take, and then you would be expected to clean your apartment or your immediate environment till about 10 or 11 o'clock. So 3-4 hours, and then everybody can go out to start moving. So those 3 to 4 hours, People who would like to have had their businesses operate, deliver items, prepare for weddings, now have to take a chill pill and start to scramble. And if you remember, those of you who are old enough to remember how sanitation was back in those days, from about 2 minutes after 11, those days, right? There was traffic. Everybody just pours out on the street. It's kind of like they just ring bell when we're in school. Closing time, bing, bing, bing. Everybody rushes to the gate. That's how it was. So this morning, let's have like an I beg to differ type debate style conversation. Should there be a return to the Sanitation Day exercise?
The views and opinions shared on this program do not represent the position of Nigeria Info FM. Nigeria Info, let's talk.
With Jude on 92.3 Nigeria Info.
017-923-0002, 017-923-0003, 0817923-0002, 0817923-0003. At Nigeria Info PH, at Nigeria Info PH is where you'll find us on Facebook and on X. At Nigeria Info PH is where you find us on Facebook and on X. WhatsApp and Telegram is 0809-030-6416, 0809-030-6416. All right, as always, please don't forget, don't call the last number. That's the WhatsApp number. Just send us your WhatsApp messages, all right, to that number, and we'll have a great time reading out, I assure you. All right, so straight off the bat here, WhatsApp messages, let me quickly get there so I don't leave anyone out. This one says, Aseta Koye. Oh, Asetil Koye. Oh, okay, from Mile 3. Oh, good morning. It says, greetings, Sergio. Please don't tell me you're an Arsenal fan. I beg you. Those people aren't supposed to be mentioned amongst winners. But that's the thing. They are winners. Yes, the last trophy they won was, 5 years ago? COVID lockdown, if you remember, the FA Cup. And prior to that, they used to regularly, fight for, accolades. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, those Chelsea people were nowhere. Man City self, who know Man City before the billionaire people? But anyway, I've always said it. I'm a Bayern Munich fan. That's where my heart and soul rests. But I love good football. I watch good football. I watch Man U games. I watched yesterday as well. Interesting times. But anyway, moving on for that. This one says, Jude, good morning. The sanitation should not return because, just like you said, most people will just sit down in their houses because there is no reason why they should clean. The government has not made the dustbins available. The government has not cleared the gutters. The government has not cleared drainages. What exactly are we cleaning? So we clean, and where do we put it? That's the question. Good question. Doesn't support the sanitation day to return because if you all clean your house on Saturday, let's say the first Saturday of the month or the last Saturday of the month, whatever it is, right? You all clean. Where do you then throw the trash? That's the question. Because you bring it out of your houses and put where? So we shouldn't wait for just that one day. All right. Rwama should rise up to their responsibility by evacuating refuse out of Port Harcourt streets early before reintroduction of monthly sanitation. Okay? So first things first, the dirt that we're experiencing right now, which is deplorable, despicable, and just outrightly, it fills me with disdain sometimes. I have to be honest. I really have to be honest. But yeah, this person is saying, let Rwama first clear out where we are right now. Then, when we are done, okay, we should reintroduce the sanitation day. We have some interviews that we carried out. We'll play that. Now, this has now brought me to, before I open the phone line, before I go back to phone lines now, has now brought me to the word of the day All right. Today's word, once again, the idea for word of the day is to bring you a new word, or a word that I think a lot of people don't get to use very often. And hopefully you will get to use it, or, have it, embedded into your vocabulary. You can use it from a day to day. Today's word is nadir. Nadir, spelled Nadir. 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 Now, what does it mean? Right now, here it goes. Now, you know how zenith means the topmost or the highest point of a celestial sphere, or the high point of someone's career? Nadir is the direct opposite, vertically. So when you say, I've just experienced the nadir of my sporting career, that means you just experienced the lowest point. And when it comes to sanitation, many have opined that Port Harcourt had reached its nadir in recent times. Once again, the word nadir. 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 All right, James here says, Jude, good morning. I don't think the sanitation should be brought back. I don't think anything that stops economic activities is actually what will make the city go forward. What we should talk about is building systems where people can efficiently have their waste removed and, if possible, recycled. So you want to stop us from coming out on Saturday. But what of those people who travel as early as possible? Oh, that's true. That's true. I remember those days when people want to beat sanitation. They want to leave. Let's say Port Harcourt have sanitation on this Saturday. Maybe those in Edo State obviously will not have on that day. So some people will leave Port Harcourt 5 a.m. in the morning. You see, 5 a.m. it's rush. People are rushing to the motorbike because once it's 6 and you are somewhere around Choba, if they owe you, they have held you. Those days, sanitation police, they didn't need to smile. They used to say, "Oh, how are you? Welcome." See, no. In fact, on some occasions, some people have been recorded, and they will tell you that they told them, since you are on the road and you're not cleaning, come and follow us and clean this gutter. You will come down from your car back in those days, and you will clean. They will give you shovel. Whether you're wearing babariga, you will clean. So yeah, maybe that's it. We shouldn't. Once again, I am not saying. I'm only getting your thoughts on this. All right. So 0809-030-6416. 0809-030-6416. What say you, ladies and gentlemen? Should there be a reintroduction of the sanitation days? It usually used to be Saturday back in those days, where everybody is compelled to have the environment clean. Streets will come out. Local government people will they will go around making sure that all streets, all houses are cleaned on just that day alone. No? Then every other day, you go back to the status quo. Well, 92.3 Nigeria Info. We'll be back after this break. Stay tuned.